Okay, this is something special that I don't do very often because I'm not a Marvel Legends guy. I don't have many. I have some, but I don't have many. And I don't really buy new action figures very often. But I bought this. I wasn't really expecting to buy it for sure, but when I saw it, I definitely had to get it. I have been wanting a Thanos for a while. I have a few Marvel Legends, and Thanos has been one of my favorite characters for a very long time. So I saw this at Target. Wasn't really even, like I said, not really looking for it, but had to get it. So let's talk about it. So the reason I had to buy this is because Infinity Gauntlet, the comic, not really the movie stuff, but the comic has meant so much to me over the years. Because this was my introduction not only to the cosmic kind of world of in the Marvel Universe and the comics, but it was my introduction to pretty much all of Marvel Comics. So I knew Spider-Man and Silver Surfer, and that was about it. I knew the basics. Like I knew, I'd heard of the Avengers, obviously, but even the X-Men, like I just didn't know these characters when I first started reading this book. So I picked up like issue 2 off the stands, and I had to go to a comic store, probably one of the first times I'd ever been to a comic store, to find issue 1. And so like I'm reading, like Doctor Strange, there's Death, there's just I have no idea who these people are. And then even later in life, I had to go back and try to track down the Thanos quest, where he actually is like collecting these gems and stuff. But I just had no idea what was going on. I just didn't have a clue. So it was kind of like that was kind of a great way to do it. Like back before the internet, you would just grab a comic and you could figure it out as you go. And so this series, obviously drawn by George Perez, at first, it's finished by Ron Lim, which is another thing I'd like to talk about because I love Ron Lim. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. Because I bought Silver Surfer 50, which is, the silver embossed cover. I bought one of those off the stands before I bought this. So that's why I knew about Thanos. That was probably my first exposure to Thanos. And then soon after that, Infinity Gauntlet came out, and I got number 2, like I said. But yeah, so I just had no idea who all the Marvel Universe was, other than Spider-Man. I'd picked up, my very first comic book was a Spider-Man comic, and so I knew him. But this is the first time I'm ever reading a comic with Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, even though it's later, it's the fake Thor later, I think. But like, Nick Fury, I had no idea who Nick Fury was for sure. Like there's a scene in the later issues where like Wolverine and the Hulk are smoking a cigar on top of a roof. I'd never read any comic with Wolverine. I probably never heard. I don't know. I've maybe heard of him, but anyway. So this series was huge for me. I didn't know who Warlock was. None of that stuff. So that's what led me to my love of Thanos. So let's get this open and take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got here. So the coolest thing about him, he's pretty chunky, as you could imagine. He's kind of hefty. Not as hefty as I was expecting, but still pretty hefty. The cool thing about him, he's based on that Infinity Gauntlet comic version, which is what I've been wanting. Like there have been like a movie version and other kind of cool versions, but not exactly what I was looking for. And this seems pretty close to what I was looking for. He has like this pinless articulation to him. And what I mean by that, like if you look, this is another Marvel Legends figure. If you look at the articulation, there's, pinholes here at each articulation point in the legs and arms. But what they're doing now is they figured out a way to do the articulation without those pins. So that's pretty cool. So he has like, regular rotation at the head. He can look up a tiny bit, look down a tiny bit. Not much there, but side to side is good. He has these two, like the collar thing and the skirt thing that are kind of pieces that are added on top. And but those don't really hinder the articulation, really. His arms go up about that much. The elbow, it's like a single joint there. And there's almost no range there, really. Like you can kind of get him to do a little bit. There's just not much there, but you don't really need a ton there. It would be nice to have a little bit more there, but it's not bad. So he swivels at the waist. He has a crunch, so he can kind of go back and kind of go down a little bit. And he has thigh cut and legs kind of single jointed as well. Also, they do a little bit more. Actually, they're double jointed, so they do a bit more than the elbow. So that's good. And the feet are stiff, which is good because it's a heavy figure. But and they have like a good amount of rocker to them as well. But yeah, some overall good articulation. So the other cool thing is these extra hands that he comes with, and one of them is this kind of outstretched infinity gauntlet hand that you can see here. That's a pretty good one. So the one he comes packaged with is just like a regular fist without the gems, and then he comes with two extra hands. Like I said, this one and then this snap one, which is pretty great, obviously. And he also comes with this extra head. It's from the comics, like the recent comics. I think the one's by Donny Cates, if I'm not mistaken. I read it. It's really good. It's I don't think I would display it with this head, but it's really cool to have that option. I think it's from the Thanos Wins. I think it's like when he's older, he's actually gotten what he wants, and it's a good storyline. So it's cool to get an extra head, but I'll be using the regular one. So like I said, he's a chunky figure, but he's not the chunkiest figure I've got. This gray Hulk, there's a green version as well, but I got the gray one. This is from years and years ago. He's the chunkiest figure I've got, so he kind of dwarfs Thanos a little bit, even though the Thanos figure is quite big, but this one's definitely way heavier. And you can see like it's older, so it has like these visible pins, unlike the Thanos one. But it's pretty chunky, but not the chunkiest one I've got. But to compare him to a regular figure, so this is, Wolverine's probably a little, maybe smaller than a regular figure, but this gives you a bit of an idea of how big he is. Here I can compare him to Star-Lord as well, so he's definitely like kind of towers over regular figures. But another cool comparison we can do is alongside what most people would consider his counterpart at DC, comparing him to this Darkseid. So this is the one of the Darkseids that they made to look like Kirby's artwork. He's having a hard time standing up, but here you can get an idea of how they stack up next to each other. And I've even got another Darkseid to compare. So he's definitely, they make a chunkier version of this kind of Darkseid. It's like a Build-A-Figure version of that would probably tower over this Thanos, but that gives you an idea of how they stack up. And here, you could see how he stacks up against these little tiny figures. The only one of these I have is this little Silver Surfer, which is goes well with this with this guy. Overall, a great figure. I recommend it if you can find it. It's a deluxe figure, so it's a little more expensive than the regular Marvel Legends figures. But I've been looking for a Thanos for a while. I think my only complaint really is that the elbow articulation is really tight. And honestly, the face sculpt is really good, but I kind of wish there was just one with him just grinning instead of having his mouth open, but it's not bad at all. I like the sculpt quite a bit. And this kind of gold plastic, it looks kind of cheapish. Because like this stripe here, it's blue, but it's painted gold. And that paint gold looks better to me than this kind of unpainted plasticky gold stuff. But again, those are pretty minor nitpicks. It looks great. It's a great figure.
With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist, and I call that mercy.
And then what?
I finally rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe.